Hi and welcome to The Inquisitive Artist, where I, Lindsey Tyson, dive deep into the lives, art and creative processes of fellow artists. I'm fascinated by how others approach their work, their unique perspectives and the ways they navigate life. Join me as I explore candid conversations with artists and creatives from all walks of life. Together, we'll discuss the challenges of the creative journey and share insights to encourage your own artistic path. Thank you for joining us. Today, I'm interviewing Rob Moore. I first met Rob when he was the head of art at York College of Art and Technology in 1991 when I was taking my art foundation course. He moved on to be the Dean of the Hull School of Art and Design and more recently, and fortunately for us, moved to Scarborough, where he's now a trustee and curator of the Old Parcels Office, better known as the OPO Art Space. He's a practising artist and printmaker too. I'd like to thank Rob for coming today and for his generosity. He puts an awful lot of time and energy into the art scene in Scarborough and we all really appreciate his input and expertise. I first met you when I went to York to do my foundation course, and I'm sure you don't remember that, but that's when I first...
I do remember.
Yeah, well, you remember York.
Yeah.
You don't remember me. So I didn't see a lot of you then, but that was a really good course. So, but anyway, we'll go back a little way.
Okay.
And start with, so you grew up in Leicester.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
I did.
And
council estate.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, real poor parents, working class council estate.
Really?
Yeah.
Gosh, fantastic. And then, so was your first step Sheffield, or did you do one before? Did you go
I went
to
to pre-diploma, which is now foundation,
right.
at Loughborough College of Art and Design.
Yeah, no, I did read that. And how was that? Did you enjoy that?
Oh, well, I always wanted to do it, yeah. So I did. And, the staff were great, about 60 on the course. Very rigorous discipline training in colour and 3D and perspective.
Yeah.
And
that's a great thing about foundations, isn't it? Because you learn all the skills. And nowadays they seem to be like bypassing that. Have you found that people just go straight into degrees and then you don't learn all those skills, do you?
It's because the universities just stack them high.
Yeah.
It's all about money now, so not many look at,
So did you specialise in the foundation? Did you specialise in?
Not really, because the week was split up into different days. So you did 2D design one day, 3D another day. Apart from at the beginning, where the first 2 weeks were doing one drawing.
Really, just
2
one
weeks,
for 2
a perspective drawing.
Wow.
And if you got anything slightly out, they were there. The staff, You couldn't.
That would be my worst nightmare. Really would.
It was hard. It was tough, but it taught me a lot in retrospect. Yeah.
Really good education. Yeah. So then you went to Sheffield.
Yeah.
And did you do fine art at Sheffield?
Yeah, I did fine art, painting. Yeah. How
did you know you wanted to do fine art as against anything else?
I knew before I did pre-diploma. Really, I suppose because I'd had a good art teacher in sixth form, and it was the sort of like place you could disappear to and have a space, and so I painted there really. So I was never interested in anything else. So I think I did a graphic design type poster once, but that was the end of the graphic design career.
Were your family? I know your brother is a painter, but were your family artistic?
My dad painted a bit. My mother wanted to go and do fashion at Leicester College, but the war came and stuff, and they couldn't do it. So neither of them went to art school. My uncle Alan, my dad's brother, he was a painter.
Right.
He didn't live off his paintings, but he was a painter all his life, sold loads of work, knew lots of important painters and things in the Leicester bit, Brian Organ and people like that. And now my brother's a painter, my sister-in-law's a jeweller, my nephew's a really well-known international jeweller sculptor.
Wow. And what's their name?
Jane Moore,
who's
an enamellist, silver enamel, and John Moore, who does all sorts of wacky stuff. He's got stuff in big museums. It's big scale stuff, yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
I wonder where all that creativity comes from then.
Desperation, probably.
Do something nice.
What else can we do?
Yeah. Oh, well, Wow. So you did fine art at Sheffield, and then what happened after that?
Most of my mates on the course opted for security and went to do teacher training. And in actual fact, I applied to go to Hornsey to do what was called Art Teachers Diploma, ATD. My heart wasn't in it. And I pulled out. Oh, I had an interview at the Slade for postgrad as well.
Right.
And I had an interview there with Sir William Coldstream.
Okay.
And other staff. And it was when the postal strike was on, so I just got a phone call to turn up after I'd sent my folder down. And I had this interview, and at the end of the interview, they said to me, well, how do you feel about doing printmaking then? And I said I didn't apply for printmaking, I applied for painting, and that was it. They were all printmaking staff. Oh. And I didn't know.
But now you
that was who was interested in me.
Oh, no.
So I didn't get into the Slade, so I had nothing to do.
Right.
And then at the end of my degree course, or BA, it wasn't a BA, it was a DIP-AD, where I didn't get much help from most 95% of the staff. My paintings were selected for a show at the Mapping Gallery in Sheffield.
Right.
And I put about 4 or 5 big paintings in there, and the head of painting at Manchester College of Art saw them, contacted me. This was after we'd finished, like a week or two after we'd finished, got nothing to do.
Right.
And he invited me over for an interview at Manchester College of Art, and I was interviewed by him. His name was Jack Wright, he was a painter. And Douglas Wayne Hobson, who was quite well known as a painter, who was head of faculty. And they offered me the Granada Fellowship in Fine Art.
I saw that. That's so. And what did that entail, and what did that mean?
Well, it's a 1-year contract, and there's only one in the country. There were 3 fellowships in the country worth having. One was at Cheltenham, one was at Newcastle, which was the big one, the Gregory Fellowship, and I think the Granada Fellowship, sponsored by Granada TV, was the second in line.
Right. Wow.
So I was dead lucky to get it.
Yeah.
So they gave me a whacking great studio. All the materials were free.
Yeah. Wow.
Half a day's teaching a week. 500.
What they taught you?
No,
teach,
they gave me.
taught?
They paid me to do half a day's teaching on top of the fellowship money, which was 500 quid a year, which was.
Was that a lot then?
A full grant was 300 quid a year.
Wow.
And all the materials. And my only obligation was to do a lecture to whoever was interested in this massive lecture theatre, which was the first talk I ever did. And I had to have an exhibition at the end of the year, which was the first they had in a gallery called the Undercroft Gallery, which was massive. But I worked my rocks off, really, and I did sculpture and painting, and I had a show at the end of the year.
And what materials did you use for your sculpture?
Oh, it was all based on kites, man-flying kites, so all the shapes were based on kite shapes. They were quite big, about 10 foot tall, made out of wood, canvas. They had cotton waste, paper mache, and they had lots of surface decoration from all the marks I was using in the paintings.
Yeah.
So I filled the Undercroft Gallery.
Gosh.
And Granada TV bought 2 paintings from it as well.
Wow, just what, for their offices sort of thing? Or
They had a vast collection at Granada.
Did they?
Oh yeah, they had Francis.
I wonder how they got involved in the art side of things then.
I think it was a tax write-off.
Yeah.
But the Diamonds, who used to run Granada at the time, they had a lot of money, and I think they liked art as well, because they did look at stuff, and they bought Francis Bacon's, they bought Mike Vaughan's, who had the fellowship 2 years before me, Michael Vaughan. There's another guy had it a year before me called Ed Elliott, bought work from him. But they bought big names as well, as an investment sort of thing.
Wow. So you did your year fellowship, and then what happened?
Having that bit of teaching enabled me to apply for part-time, because I never really wanted to teach.
Yeah.
And it was quite an eye-opener at Manchester, as it was then, teaching. But then I applied for a job at Accrington College of Further Education in the art school, little foundation course and plus adult ed. And I applied for a full-time job, didn't get it, but they offered me a couple of days a week. So I used to travel up there from Buxton through Manchester, Ramsbottom, and teach there for a couple of days, stay with a painter friend in Manchester, and then go back to Buxton after that.
So Buxton's not Leicestershire, is it?
It's North Derbyshire.
So how did you end up in Buxton. Where did that come into that?
Oh, I didn't like living in Manchester.
Right.
So a guy I met who was a teacher called Mike Goodwin had a house in Buxton, and he had a top floor free, so he rented it out to me. So that's the reason, really, I went to
Right,
Buxton.
so you used to travel from there to Manchester? Or did you stay in Manchester when you were doing your fellowship?
Most of the year I was in Manchester, but the rest of the time I was in Buxton,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
And it was just love of hills and snow and countryside, really, yeah.
Yeah, because it seems to me, from what I know about you, that you really love the landscape.
Yeah. I wasn't a landscape painter then, I was just abstract stuff. But, I love walking and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So, have you always been abstract then?
I made some rather crap paintings when I was on first year degree, influenced by pop artists. So I made a big sculpture based on Tom Wesselman's stuff. And I made some paintings based on comic book heroes.
Yeah.
But it was only a year till that sort of got knocked out of me.
Yeah. So did somebody influence you to do abstract, or was it something that was natural?
I got interested in the abstract cubism. I was always interested in that sort of flattening out of space and stuff. And I got interested in abstract expressionism, particularly Mark Tobey, Jackson Pollock, Robert Rauschenberg, Willem de Kooning particularly, and then Arshile Gorky, sort of post-abstract expressionist. And there was a member of staff that came when I started, who's wonderful painter, who had a painting in the big paintings for public places at the Hayward Gallery. And her name was Anne Greby, and she was young, and she liked my work, and I liked her work. So, yeah, probably she was the most useful. And I've kept in touch with her. She's got a huge exhibition in Italy at the moment.
Right, wow.
She's probably starting to get towards the 80 mark, I would think. Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah, so you started teaching.
Yeah.
And then tell me a little bit more about where that went from. How long did you stay there, and then where did you go from there?
I stayed there for 2 or 3 years, part-time. I eventually ended up doing 3 days a week.
And were you doing your own art at the same time?
I always was, yeah. I always made space for that. And then a job came up at Stourbridge College of Art and Design, and I didn't know even where that was, but I applied for it. And in those days, it was quite tough to get a job. I found out afterwards there were 300 applicants for it,
wow,
which is just unheard of.
Yeah.
But lots of painters wanted to get good work. And Stourbridge was a brilliant art school. It had a brilliant foundation course. And there were about 6 or 8 of us, all newly appointed over 2 years. So it was a really great, exciting team of very, very good painters and sculptors and stuff. So I got that job there. Don't know how. And I stayed there for about 8 years.
Right. Oh, right. So quite a while then.
Yeah.
And then York, or somewhere in between?
York. I went to York next, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so bounced down south and lived in Worcester.
Right.
And then bounced back up north and lived in Malton to travel into York and teach on the run and teach the foundation course there.
Yeah, you were running it when I was there.
And 1 or 2 other bits.
It was pieces. I absolutely loved it. It was just and all the teachers were so good. I felt. I think it was really good.
They had a joint philosophy about what was important at York, which was really good. And it was a very different to the foundation course I taught on in Stourbridge, which was really wildly creative.
Right.
And presented the students with really difficult challenges. And staff taught by example. I used to have a little studio on top of an office, literally a mezzanine on top of an office, and I used to paint up there at Stourbridge.
What made you move from there then?
I suppose by then I'd got married and we'd had the first child, and I probably needed a bit more income, and so York was a bit more income. And it was running a course, which I didn't at Stourbridge, I just taught on it, so I quite liked the idea of doing that.
So were you able to sort of decide on the curriculum and what you taught, what was taught?
I made a few changes at York, but they were so good, the staff there, and they taught good fundamentals of, I always remember them talking about rhythms in drawings.
I don't remember.
And they used to take the students off to Hull Fair I don't know whether you
I don't know.
that.
I didn't go into Hull Fair. I just remember sitting in York train station in the middle of winter, freezing to death, doing my perspective drawing.
Yeah, we used to take people were out and about quite a bit there. Yeah. But there was some good staff there, you know.
Yeah.
Most of them were very good and very into the art stuff.
Yeah.
And some of them actually enjoyed teaching as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's Bernardina Lloyd. I'm still sort of in touch with her. And she was still working.
Textile artist, yeah.
Well, when I did, I specialised in the textiles in my foundation. So we did a little bit of everything, and then we had to decide. And I couldn't decide which department to go in. I had no idea because I like doing everything. But fine art was the last one on my list.
Was it?
Yeah.
Textiles, there was Ros Finesse.
Yeah, Ros and
Bernardina Lloyd.
Bernardina and little Jan.
Oh, Jan Bean.
It was great. Absolutely loved it. And as soon as I started that, I thought, I found where I should be, really.
Yeah.
But obviously now I've moved on to painting. But painting was I remember seeing one of the students painting something really weird on account and thinking, what's that about? And I thought that's not me. Anyway, so so you're in York, and then did you go to Hull from York, or did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
What made you move to Hull?
I was really ready to move on.
Right.
So I went to Hull. I used to be examiner at Hull for a year or two, so they got in touch with me and asked me to apply, which was nice.
Yeah.
They got one of the foundation staff to ring me up and said, "Will you apply for this?" And I did. And everyone thought I was mad going from York to Hull.
Right.
But the principal wanted to expand higher education at Hull. It was the Further Education College, and they only had one higher education course in graphic design, HNC. So that was quite attractive to build, be creative, build something up as well. And we developed quite a big art school.
Right, yeah. And then you became the dean.
Yeah.
Then what does that mean exactly?
Well, it's because Lincoln University, who ran the higher education art school that used to be a polytechnic briefly, they pulled out of Hull in they were very poorly treated, Hull. But to pull out with a bit of grace, they linked up with the college and asked if we would take on their degree courses. So I was sort of running the FE art school with a bit of HE that we'd developed, and I just fell into it really. So we amalgamated the two schools and moved into the what were the former polytechnic and higher education buildings, and built that up. We had architecture.
How long did you stay there?
About 9 years, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So I better talk a little bit about your work.
Oh yeah.
So that's your life story.
Yeah.
But then you moved to Scarborough from Hull.
I moved to Barrow and Humber to start with.
Right. Oh yeah, of course.
And had my lifelong dream of, well, not lifelong dream, but a long-held dream of building a little eco house. So I managed to get a little plot of land, and designed with an architect friend this little, very unusual little house built around a big studio. I think it's only the second air source heat pump.
Right. Wow.
That place the company had seen, so we put that, and it was good. Yeah.
Right, and
then met someone and moved to Scarborough.
Yeah.
Into drafty Victorian accommodation. Yeah. Costing the earth in energy.
Yeah, we live in one of those. And do you like being in Scarborough?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good community. Love the sea, love the countryside.
I think we're very lucky to have you here, because obviously you're quite involved in the art scene here as well. But anyway, we need to talk about your work a little bit, don't we? So, and you're a printmaker as well as a painter. So when did the printmaking come in?
I did some printmaking when I was at Sheffield College of Art, mainly etching. And then when I was on my fellowship, they had a fantastic printmaking department at Manchester in the Medlock building. And I did my first big litho prints there. But I couldn't get on with it. I only did 3 big litho prints, maybe 4, and lost interest in that. But I liked etching. And so when I was 11, actually, the gallery in Hull, we set up a printmaking there and had acid baths and aquatint boxes and stuff. Yeah. So I did a bit there, and I taught a bit of colograph and stuff to a little group. And I've continued doing bits, but the last year or two I've hardly done any. I've got plates ready to print that have never seen a press yet.
Yeah, I know the feeling you do. It's life, isn't it? I suppose. Yeah.
Painting took over totally. Yeah.
So how did the painting take over? Is that because it's more in demand, or from the galleries and places like that?
No, I think because I find painting a much more direct method. I always feel that with most printmaking, not all, there's a sort of slightly technological barrier between the idea and the outcome. Right. So obviously with etchings, it's grounds and aquatints and acid baths and things, whereas drawing and painting, you're straight onto the canvas or the paper. So there's that a quicker connection between brain, if I heard any left, and marks.
Yeah. When I was at York, it was the mark making section that I really, really enjoyed. And that was what made a really big impact on me.
Well, that comes over strongly in what you do now, doesn't it?
But I remember we had our first mark making class, and I can't remember the guy's name. Martin, was it?
Martin Sheehan.
Martin. And he just got all these different tools like sponges and twigs and everything on it, and then there was a list of words, and you had to pick a word and a tool, and you had to make a mark to represent it. And I remember I had to do a bulrush, and I went and picked up a sponge, and I remember him saying, like, what are you doing there? And I did this bulrush with my sponge in just 2 marks sort of thing, and it was great. And I was like, that's something I can do, mark making. Right. And I really thought, that's something I can do.
Well, Martin, who you talked about, he was the guy I worked alongside because he ran the little fine art group. And when I did my day or two teaching, I used to teach the fine art group. And I remember Martin, he was a great bloke. He's long since dead now. He died a few years ago. He was an interesting bloke, Martin. But I remember him saying to one of the students who said, he came into the fine art group. Martin says, you're never going to be a fine artist. Go away and do graphic design. So this guy went away and did graphic design and found it wasn't for him. So he stayed an extra year on the foundation.
Oh, right, wow.
And did painting against Martin's better wishes. Anyway, this guy now is one of the most renowned painters in Britain. His name's Andy Gifford.
Andy Gifford.
And he makes the most amazing paintings, Really? So how wrong can you be? I've been wrong lots of times too, but I remember that distinctly.
It's good that Andy stuck with it and knew that he wanted to. And it wasn't put off, because you can be put off, can't you?
You can very easily, yeah. But I think what was good about art schools in those days, there were enough staff to have alternative points of view. Yeah. Whereas now in some art schools, the staff are so thin on the ground, you don't get that conflict sometimes and discussion between staff about art and about approaches and content and stuff. And I think that lacks a little bit now. Yeah. Whereas then there were other people around who could encourage. So if someone else could see something in that guy.
Thanks for listening. This is the end of part 1. Continue to listen to Rob in part 2.